Coming up on It's Personal, brought to you by Gunderson Health System. Strollers and carriers, just how safe are they? Or is it user issues? We're going to have some details with a trauma injury prevention specialist on safety issues. Also, we'll talk with Marisa Pruitt about whole grains on the increase and soda on the decrease. And a little bit later, we're going to talk pink. September 10th, it's coming to the Gunderson Health System campus. It used to be a walk, it's now become an event. You'll learn more when It's Personal continues. It's Personal is brought to you by Gunderson Health System.
You know, house calls aren't typical anymore. But as a Gunderson cardiologist, I do the next best thing: outreach visits to my patients in rural clinics and hospitals. I love that I can bring care closer to home, especially when they're ill or the weather is not good.
At Gunderson Health System, our doctors go the extra mile, or 60, to provide care for patients. It's the driving force behind love plus medicine. Learn more about Gunderson hospitals and clinics at gundersonhealth.org.
Welcome back to It's Personal, brought to you by Gunderson Health System. I'm Chris Stauffer. Well, when it comes to baby strollers and baby carriers, you're thinking, well, they're some of the most safe things that you can use for your kids, and they're obviously also convenient because you can use them in the car and you can use them when you're walking the kids. But Erica Kane is here, trauma injury prevention specialist, to talk a little bit about how the fact that maybe sometimes those things are not quite as safe as we may think. What's going on?
Yes, there was a new study released this week about injuries related to strollers and to baby carriers. And the study looked at injuries in ERs from 1991 to 2010. So over, a 21-year period of time, so really quite a long time. And they looked at any kind of injury in the ER that came through with the child that was either in a stroller when they were hurt or in a carrier. And the carriers could be car seat carriers that detach and can be handheld. And they also included the types of carriers that strap on parents and caregivers. So they really looked at a lot here.
Okay, so what's going on? Because there's people out there that are, using those carriers thinking super safe. Mm-hmm. Using those strollers, taking them to a parade or taking them on a, stepping out in pink walk, for example, and they're not, maybe.
Yes.
Is it just usage?
Well, what was really interesting with this study, only about 2% of the injuries with carriers were related to product malfunction.
Okay, so the products are safe.
Yeah, the products seem to be safe. For strollers, it was about 1% of injuries were due to product malfunction. Where most of the injuries happened for both the strollers and the carriers were children falling out onto the floor. So we have some tips that we'd like to share with grandparents and other caregivers to make sure they use these products safely.
Because a lot of times the parents get some sort of instruction. Maybe it's at the hospital when they have their child and they go out to their car and they show them how to strap it in, or they've been to a child seat safety check, so they maybe know it, but then they pull the seat out and they give it to the grandparents to go put it in the back of their car or truck, and there might be some issues. Is that kind of what you're alluding to?
I think so, and these products have changed a lot over the years and have a little more bells and whistles than grandparents might be used to.
Right, some sophistication to this stuff. It's not just the seatbelt strapped in hard.
Definitely. So looking at the product instructions is very important, making sure to read those and to be familiar. Making sure to always strap children into these products, especially the strollers, which are of course going to be higher off the ground and could hurt a child more if they fell from them. And also for car seats, something that parents don't always think about and grandparents don't always think about, the infant carriers, which attach to a base in your vehicle and detach and can be handheld, are really convenient. They can be carried around, but they're really not meant to be used outside of the car exclusively. So they're tested for safety in vehicles and not so much outside of vehicles. So our recommendations are really to try and limit use to when you're actually transporting the child. If the child is sleeping, it's really not a safe sleep environment after they get out of the car. So, we recommend to take the baby out and place them in a safe sleep environment. Also, something that people don't often think about is infant carriers don't work so well in shopping carts. Yeah, so one common injury that we see is parents or grandparents balancing an infant carrier on the top part of a shopping cart where an older child is meant to be strapped in. It's very unstable, and we do see some serious...
Top heavy.
Definitely, yeah. So it is a risk for that tipping over. So we recommend if you take a grandchild or a child to the grocery store and they're in an infant carrier, actually place it in the big part of the shopping cart.
Seems to me that a lot of people sort of take these things for granted, that the product themselves are going to protect their child, but you really kind of have to think outside the box. And again, you mentioned grandparents, and the reason we talk about that is because a lot of times they don't get the instructions that maybe they should get, and yet many times they're the caregiver for a child.
Yes, I think that's true. So I think it's important to talk to the child's parents about how the product should be used. Don't be afraid to ask for a demonstration. Certainly any times there's straps on a product, those should always be used consistently, whether it's strollers or a child carrier. I think those are two really big tips that can prevent a lot of these injuries we've seen.
Like you said, a lot of sophistication to some of these new products that are out there, a lot of bells and whistles, and it's nice to know how they work. They might even find them helpful and useful beyond just the safety parts.
Yes, definitely. And most of the injuries that we saw were actually in children less than 1 year of age. So for me, that kind of tells me that it's not related to children goofing off and being silly when they're in their strollers or in their carriers, but more so related to how the adults around them are using them.
Right. All right. Some great advice, Erica Kane. We really appreciate your time. Anything you want to add before we go?
I would just recommend that, keep an eye on those manufacturer instructions, and the products can be used safely when you follow them.
Probably good advice beyond just talking about baby carriers and strollers.
Absolutely.
All right, Erica Kane, Trauma Injury Prevention Specialist at Gunderson Health System. When we come back, we're going to be talking with Marisa Pruitt about whole grains are on the increase and soda is on the decrease. What's going on? We'll find out next when It's Personal continues. It's Personal is brought to you by Gunderson Health System.
My husband, Wally, spent a week recovering at Gunderson Health System. He's really patriotic, so he was a little bummed out that he'd be stuck there for the 4th of July. So after dinner, we rolled up to floor 6 for our usual walk. But something was different. There were people gathered up there, all smiling at us. Because at the end of the hall, right by a giant window, we saw a love seat, a flag, and a sign that read, "Per Dr. Botner, reserved for Wally." We could see the fireworks perfectly framed through the window. It was almost as good as seeing them down by the river, but with an extra bonus. No mosquitoes.
At Gunderson Health System, our staff of specialists, doctors, and nurses try to make the best out of every stay. It's a philosophy of care we like to call love plus medicine. Learn more about Gunderson hospitals, clinics, and specialty services at gundersonhealth.org.
Welcome back to It's Personal, brought to you by Gunderson Health System. I'm Chris Stauffer. There's some good news out there. It seems Americans are adding more whole grains and maybe drinking a little less soda. Here to talk about that is registered dietitian Marisa Pruitt. Why are people drinking less soda? Is your message finally getting out there?
Oh, I hope so, Chris. I think people are overwhelmingly more aware of what's in their food. They are getting bombarded in every direction with messages about health and wellness and high quality foods. And consumers in general are much more attuned to where their food is coming from and what's in it. So I think these are all really good things and contribute to drinking less soda and eating more whole grains, nuts, and things like that.
And let's face it, when it comes to drinking soda, it's not necessarily a bad thing to have a soda. But when, I'll say, maybe it started in the 80s, I'm not sure, but it seemed like soda was like the beverage. People were not drinking water. They were not doing, I guess you could say, drinking soda in moderation.
Sure. And I think also soda's more fun. I mean, it's bubbly, it's sweet, it hits all of the brain firing, pleasure sensors that we have, and water just isn't. So I think we are naturally drawn to foods and beverages like that, but when it comes down to our body's need, water is where it's at.
All right, so when you're at the restaurant, consider having a glass of water, maybe with that little bit of soda, if nothing else. But the other good news in there is not just that Americans are drinking less soda, it's that they're choosing whole grains. Talk about why that's important for the body.
Sure, there's been a huge push for whole grains. A lot of government funding, government dollars being put into campaigns around whole grains and the importance of them. And I also think with an increase in people's use of social media and that online connectivity, we're learning more about other people's eating habits and food choices more than ever before. So I think there's just a lot of information out there. Whole grains are one of those foods that we need for vitamins and minerals, fiber, and they're relatively easy to get our hands on and pretty inexpensive too.
What are some of the best ways to get some whole grains in your diet if there's someone out there listening saying, I want that?
Sure. Yeah, there's lots of good ways. I mean, if we start with breakfast, good old bowl of oatmeal. Oatmeal is a whole grain, fills you up, can keep you full for a long time, and we can make it relatively quickly in the morning. Switching out our bread from something like a refined white bread to a heartier whole grain wheat or rye or oat bread. And then experimenting with some of those ancient grains like quinoa, millet, bulgur, and the list goes on, and using those instead of maybe white rice in some of our cooking.
All right, and the third piece of this whole puzzle, again, the good news with less sugary drinks and more whole grains is that it seems that Americans are also starting to eat more nuts. All kinds of nuts, cashews and walnuts and everything. What's the benefit of that?
Nuts are a great source of monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. These are heart protective fats. And I think once we got past the low-fat diet era and that ban on fatty foods was lifted, people finally were like, I really enjoy these foods and I would like to eat them. And so we've seen a surge in all sorts of different nut butters as well, like cashew butter and sunflower butter and things like that. So Americans are tending towards those nuts and seeds. They're a great portable snack. They require almost no preparation, and they're tasty and filling.
I know some people worry, though, that there is a lot of fat in things like cashews. Is that a concern?
It could be. They are a calorie-dense food, and so certainly keeping our portion size under control is important. But there are a lot of other benefits of fat, mainly in satiety, meaning our feeling of fullness. So when we eat a combination of foods that include healthy fats, we feel fuller, longer, we're more satisfied, we're less likely to, give into those indulgences or those cravings later.
We're talking with Marisa Pruitt. She's a registered dietitian at Gunderson Health System about some news about Americans drinking less sugary drinks, eating more whole grains, and also more nuts, which seems like some great news, but there's more work to be done. If there's someone out there listening saying, what else can I do to improve my diet if I'm already doing these three things, what else could I do?
I would have to say increasing our fruits and vegetables. We as Americans still eat far less fruits and vegetables than we need in a day, probably by a third of what we need. So taking advantage of some of those summer farmers markets, or purchasing a share of a CSA where you can try different things, or even just going into the grocery store with the idea that we're going to try one new fruit or vegetable, or at least put something in our cart. Increasing those fruits and vegetables is so important too.
You mentioned a CSA. Can you explain what that is?
Oh, sure. Community supported agriculture. So essentially what you do is you buy a share of a farmer's crop at the beginning of the growing season, and then all during the growing season you are delivered a box of the fresh produce. So it's seasonal. There's all sorts of unique things in there, from heirloom fruits and vegetables to maybe some things that your grandparents used to eat that haven't really been mainstream in today's grocery shopping. But then at the end of the season, once the growing season ends, then the boxes stop and then you would start again the next year.
One of the things I know some people are concerned about is when you go to get those fruits or those vegetables, they're perishable, I'll say, preservative type things. But there's some tips out there for that too.
Absolutely. What I would say is my main piece of advice is that there's nothing wrong with frozen and canned fruits and vegetables, and they last a whole lot longer than the fresh ones. So buy a small amount of the fresh, something that you can, really see yourself eating and using so that they don't go to waste, and then move into the frozen and canned before your next grocery shopping trip. So take advantage of the fresh, but don't overdo it. Don't, go crazy and load up the cart and then end up throwing it away.
And wasting money as well. I know a lot of people also look for tips online about how to preserve foods and keep them longer, whether it's, that loaf of bread or, whatever it may be. There's, like you said, there's the freezer. It does help.
It does. It absolutely does. And that might be something that you consider when you see all these strawberry stands around. Mm-hmm. Maybe you like fresh strawberries, but fresh strawberries aren't going to last very long. So maybe we freeze some and we use them in smoothies or, other muffins. Or
smoothie sounds good any time of day.
Exactly.
Marisa, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us. And if you'd like to learn more about this topic or any other nutrition-related topic, you can go to the Gunderson Health System website. And when we come back to It's Personal, brought to you by Gunderson Health System, we're going to be talking about pink. A lot of pink going to be happening September 10th right around the Gunderson Health System campus. That's all next when It's Personal continues.
As someone with cystic fibrosis, I spend a lot of time at Gunderson Health System. The doctors and nurses have become kind of like family. After a recent stay, I was hoping to go home when my nurse, Angie, told me I'd need to stay another day. Well, I wasn't very happy, and I might have let her know it as she left my room. A few minutes later, in walks someone dressed as a superhero. Mask, cape, boots, the whole deal. I didn't know who it was at first, but when she put her hands on her hips and said, "I heard someone isn't having a very good day," I knew exactly who it was. I've never laughed so hard in my life. Once again, my superhero nurse had saved the day.
Gunderson Health System employs the very best staff in the region, but it's their creative caring that makes them some of the best in the world. We call it Love Plus Medicine. Learn more about Gunderson hospitals, clinics, and specialty services at gundersonhealth.org.
Welcome back to It's Personal, brought to you by Gunderson Health System. I'm Chris Stauffer. Big weekend comes up each and every September, and it's Steppin' Out in Pink weekend, and it kind of takes over the neighborhood around Gunderson Health System. Joining us to talk about that is Debbie Kroner from the Gunderson Health System Foundation. And I know, Debbie, this time of the year it gets a little bit stressful when it comes to the last minute preparation for Steppin' Out in Pink, but it always comes together, and this year, September 10th.
Yeah, stressful is an understatement. There's a lot of logistics that go into this, and it's really 10, 11 months of planning to make sure that it is as seamless as possible. When I'm out there, I may see something, but nobody else knows that it's something might not have quite come off the way we wanted it to. But the comments are always, "Don't change a thing."
Very positive.
This is just an incredible event. When you think of walking for breast cancer research, it may seem like, oh, that's just, that's really sad. And yes, if somebody is diagnosed with breast cancer, it is sad, but we are having fun during this event to raise money for a great cause. And I call it an event. Not, I think originally it was the breast cancer walk, but this has evolved into
much more than a walk.
Yeah, it's a half a day of starting out, kicking off with our survivors at a breakfast to recognize them. There's approximately 250 to 300 survivors. And they have a special bond. So they're treated to a nice continental breakfast and sharing stories, and then some educational facts and meeting our new advocate. And then we kick off in front of our main stage, and we've gone from this picture that we used to have on one bleacher, and then we went to two bleachers. Now it's three bleachers of survivors out there, and we're proud of that too, because that's one of the keys, is having more survivors. catching breast cancer early.
You mentioned that it's a positive event. I would also say that it's an emotional event for many people, many families, because when you see those breast cancer survivors and the growing number of breast cancer survivors, and then they talk about how many years they've survived cancer, and there's people that have survived breast cancer now for decades.
Yes, it's extremely emotional, and I always forget to take my Kleenex up on stage when we're kicking off, because one of the emotional things is the Paula Tower Award, and this is handed out by Paula's kids. Paula lost her battle with breast cancer, and Jeff and Kate come on stage, and when they started doing this award, they were little kids. And it doesn't take much to be taller than me, but they have grown up. They write their own sentiments about their mother, about the person that is receiving the award. It's always given to somebody who's done just great things for breast cancer awareness, either in our community or surrounding areas. And so it's quite an honor to be given the Paula J. Tower Memorial Award as well. And Paula was a personal friend of mine, so that becomes emotional, but to see her kids expressing their sentiments about their mom is just a tearjerker.
It really is, and they've been doing a great job of that for a number of years now, and we look forward to hearing who the Paula J. Tower Award winner is in 2016. Talk a little bit about what people are going to see along the walk, because I know you try to create a little bit of variety, but there's also some things that you kind of have to continue to do year after year because they're so popular along the walk route.
Well, and when you start out, you can get a little banner that you can put on your back if you're walking in honor of somebody or in memory of somebody, or just want to put a team thing. You can pin that on your shirt. You can pick up a rock and put on cancer sucks. Miss you, Mom. And then when you're getting onto the trail, we have a tree where all of these memory rocks get put under. That's a picture that always gets me, and I use it frequently in my thank yous because it just says volumes. And then you're going to be walking along the river on our VIP trail, and then going up 7th Street. It's just a great time. You get your beads and your stickers at all the markers, some water. Then the first park you get to is Pogue Park. And we'll have the martial arts, Fred Nicholas Martial Arts Group there. And then we've got a Performance Elite new gymnastics team that will be performing in that park. So you're going to have entertainment going around. And the next park you get to, and the second marker, is Powell Park. So we've got the Onalaska Marching Band in that park, and we'll have some other bands performing that day. The next big marker, which is 2.5, is Pepsi, another stage with entertainment. You're going to see the Clog Jam. You'll see Amanda's Dance Academy and Lacrosse Dance Center. So entertainment along the way, which makes it go really fast. And you'll find that everybody talks about with their family. They're sharing stories. They're catching up on their family life. So they don't realize it's 4.5 miles for this walk, which isn't a long distance, but it's long enough. But we also have at Pepsi, there's some Dahl automotive shuttles. So if you can't make the whole thing, please, call somebody if you're even at a crossing guard. They have a phone number for the shuttle. My husband's one of the drivers. He'll come pick you up. He'll probably be listening to the Badger game, but you'll get a ride back to the front if you can't, make the whole thing.
Yeah.
We want to make this easy for everybody. Now, when you're coming around the corner after Pepsi, and you will get treats at Pepsi, they'll be sampling some of their products. There'll be some muffins, bananas, a little bit of everything to keep you going, get you some potassium to make the rest of the way. And then you come around the corner, and that is where Magic 105 is, and they will be giving out beads and stickers again, and they decorate up their marker incredibly. So it's a lot of fun to see that. And then when you're going behind the East Building, that's marker 4. And we've got our Women's Health Center mans that marker, and then we also have the Warriors performing at that marker too, the Warriors performance art. So
I don't know how you coordinate it all, Debbie. Congratulations for just thinking about the walk itself, but then once you get back to the grounds,
then we've got vendors galore. Mm-hmm. We've also there'll be some race cars down there. There's a lot of racers that have pink ribbons on their cars,
Right.
and are do race out at the tracks in memory or in honor of somebody. So we'll have some cars down there. We've got the big event inflatables. We've got face painting. You will also have, there's entertainment on that main
lot
stage.
of performances.
You've got Misty's there. You've got the Journeyman, and Double Take is our finale on that stage. And so they were with us for the first time last year. Great band. You can go shopping in our tents and listen to the music. You get some treats in the Festival Foods food tent at the end. Culver's is there with their lemon ice. And again, the Castle Realty, that last year they set up a photo booth. They're a huge sponsor of ours. And so you can get your pictures taken there, as well as the team photos when you get on the route. And so just things to keep you busy the whole time. You're not going to realize that it was a 4.5-mile event.
Yeah, well, it's an event with a walk mixed in there somehow.
Yes,
I don't know. Like I said,
yeah.
I don't know how you do it, and kudos to the foundation and your team there for being able to pull it off each and every year. Before we let you go, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about how people can still get involved in it, how they can sign up. But first, tell me some numbers. Give me some numbers about, how much money has been raised over the course of this, and how many walkers, how many participants have we had in Steppin' Out in Pink?
Well, we raised over $3.8 million.
Amazing.
The numbers now, I'm not quite prepared for totals, but it's about 6,400, 6,700 walkers each year now that we are
Pretty
come to
consistently.
the event.
Yeah.
That along with we got 700 some volunteers and our vendors and our performers, so there's over 8,000 people at this event.
On September 10th, it's the place to be.
September 10th, go to steppinoutinpink.org. You can register through September 5th at midnight for $20, and then the week of it goes up to $25. Still a bargain. You get a Hope t-shirt, and that is our message. We want to give everybody hope that there will be a cure in our future. The money stays here locally for mammograms. We do research at our labs at UWL at the Kabara Cancer Research Laboratories, and that's led by Dr. Kenny, Pruitt Kenny, and they're just doing phenomenal things over there. And then we have basically the research here with patient data by Dr. Lander Casper. So finding better outcomes, not having that second surgery. So very important things are being done with the money. I mentioned the mammograms,
and locally
all
too.
locally. Giving money through our Paulus Purse Cancer Patient Fund too for people who are going through their treatments and they might need some help with a payment. Help getting to the hospital for their appointments. Just any little necessity to make one less stress for them. So we just have a lot of great things going on. If we can get in this year too, we've got extra things going on because the Fish Hook Festival, the La Crosse County Convention Visitor Bureau is doing the Fish Hook Festival on Friday night, and they will have a concert. They've got 3 bands on stage, and it's Pert Near Sandstone, Dead Man Winter, and Them Coolie Boys. Tickets are only $10. $5 of each ticket is coming to Steppin' Out in Pink. So take in that event on Friday night. On Saturday, there's things going on with the Bass Elite Fishing Tournament is in town.
That's right.
And they are going to be pinking up the docks too, and also supporting Steppin' Out in Pink. And the loggers have their Wing Fest. So it's a whole weekend out at Copeland as well to keep people who are coming to town, and we have people from 22 different states. So if you've got your friends coming into town, there is plenty to keep them busy all weekend long.
Have them dive into something that has to do with pink.
With pink, or wear pink if they're doing anything that weekend.
It all would make sense. Now, one more time, September 10th, how people can sign up, and you can also get pledges.
Yes.
Which is huge.
Yes. Right now, it's steppinoutinpink.org, $20 up and through September 5th at midnight. Our paper registration deadline, though, is August 29th. You have to have them in so that we can get them in the system. If you raise money, you can set up a page or go out and just physically raise money. For $75, you get our Steppin' Out in Pink clear bubble umbrella. For $150, you get that bubble umbrella plus a pink camp chair. These are incredible. So you're going to see, pink. You're going to get pink incentives for doing that. You don't have to raise too much, $150. We'd love you to have you raise more. Set up a team, so that you can motivate each other. And you're going to see pink pom-poms all along the way motivating you too. It's just a high energy day, and we invite everybody to come out, steppinoutpink.org.
And Debbie, thank goodness for your high energy too to be able to pull it all off. Debbie Kroner, Gunderson Health System, through the Gunderson Foundation. We appreciate your time and good luck with Steppin' Out in Pink and the event that it has become. All right, September 10th that is. And that's going to do it for this edition of It's Personal, brought to you by Gunderson Health System. I'm Chris Stauffer. Thanks for joining us.